Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gemology for Schmucks. My name is Peter Nelson. I'm here to guide you in everything you need to know about gemstones and jewelry. Today, we're going to be talking about opals. And what do you need to know when buying them so you don't get duped? So, opals, what are they? On a really simple basis, opals are different from every other type of gemstone. They're kind of off in their own world, just like pearls. They are made up of silica gel spheres. Instead of being crystalline, they are spheres. And when those spheres line up properly, they can create this effect that we call the play of color effect. Now, not all opals have that play of color. These rainbow colors that scatter, basically because of the same mechanics that create the actual rainbow, when light goes into these gel spheres and they're organized properly, it splits the light a lot like a prism into all of those different colors of the rainbow. You got red, you got green, you got blue, you got violet, and the other ones that I can't remember, indigo. And depending on the arrangement of those spheres, you get more or less of certain colors. And when those spheres are all jumbled up, you get no colors, none. No play of color for you. And that's what the Australians like to call potch. Still an opal, just has no phenomenal color. An opal exists in many different parts of the world. Typically, these were ancient seas that then dried out into deserts. And so those silica gel spheres solidified down at the bottom in crevasses and perhaps in the bones of dinosaurs. And then it lithified, turned into a stone. So in certain parts of the world, we find more opals, like Australia and Ethiopia and Mexico. But you can find it even as far as Peru or Indonesia. And there's many different body colors that are present in each of these locations. Some of them are phenomenal, having that play of color, and some of them are non-phenomenal. Mexican fire opal is a good example of that. A lot of that is just a wonderful orange body color, sometimes even beating out spessartite for its intensity. But a lot of it does not have play of color, and it is fairly soft comparably. So as with many other gemstones, we have to ask ourselves, is there a true synthetic? Is there a stone made by man in a laboratory or factory condition that has the same characteristics? And the answer is yes. Mimicking the way nature created opals, we have found that you can take these silica gel spheres and allow them to settle out in a process over time. Now, it does take some significant amount of time. So even though it is synthetic, it's not cheap. There's costs and overhead. Have you seen rent prices these days? So yes, at the end of a period of time, a couple of years to my understanding, you can get blocks of this synthetic opal. So if you go around to jewelry shops, particularly in the Western world, and you find a whole bunch of opal jewelry with strong, vibrant colors and very, very uniform structure, chances are you're looking at imitation or synthetic opal. Same characteristics, made in the same way, just in a man-made facility. But that's not all. Right here, we've got two opals. One of them is white, one of them is black. Now, what if I told you that this black one was once upon a time much like this guy over here? And that is because there is a treatment that is very commonly done to opals that has actually been around since the Roman times. Pliny the Elder was talking about this almost 2,000 years ago. And this process was often readily done and is still done on agate. This black quartz typically is not uniformly black. It tends to have white or brown bands in it. So a very common practice was to take that stone, and this can be done to almost any stone that is highly porous. Remember silica gel spheres? Well, agate is basically just lots of crystals, small crystals, all right next to each other. And then they would take that stone and boil it in sugar. So we call it sugar treatment. Once the sugar had permeated into the stone, then they would put it into acid. The acid would attack the sugar and turn it black. And so that's how they got a lot of black stones. Turns out the Goths have been around for a long time. But in modern times, they didn't just stick to black because, while black is cool, it's not for everybody. And so the deposit that these white stones come from, that's Wello in Ethiopia, which has a pretty substantial supply, and a lot of it looks pretty samey. So rather than just make one type of opal, they decided to expand to a wider variety of products that maybe appeal to other people. So instead of having to pay the prices that you'd have to pay for natural black opal from Lightning Ridge, Australia, you can get it for trinket prices. This costs less than lunch. No avocado toast. But not only black, there's also orange, there's pink, there's bright blue, I'm sure they can find other colors that they could turn these opals into, and the excellent news is they still maintain that play of color. Different body color and lots of rainbow shine. So from a product creation point of view, this is an incredibly democratic stone. It's still earth-mined, and you can get some colors that just don't exist in nature, particularly for opals, at least so far in our discoveries. But as I have said many times on this channel, you can like whatever you like, But from a value point of view, we have to think about collectability. If you can go and find a piece whenever you want it, in whatever size you want, we have to expect the price to fall. Standard supply and demand. So the good news is that this is highly available and great for jewelry designers at a very approachable budget. But from a collectability point of view, can we really justify sinking a large amount of money into one stone? It's going to be very difficult to move that stone onto someone else who's willing to pay a similar amount to you. So particularly with these treated stones. So with Wello, because the supply is high and a lot of the stones are basically the same kind of feeling, there's not an incredible amount of collectability to these pieces. Even large pieces are still quite approachable. So again, great for jewelers, but from a collector's point of view, bit of a struggle. One other thing I'd like to point out on opals are these right here. Oftentimes, especially in Australia, you find opals occurring in a very thin slice. There's mother rock, oftentimes ironstone, and then a thin slice of opal. You can see this a lot with boulder opals, where they keep the mother rock attached. But some clever people decided that they were going to take that thin layer of opal, back it with a stronger stone or other material, and make what's called a doublet. You get that nice natural shine of natural opal, but the added strength of a larger gemstone. Not all opals are chunky. And if it's a particularly thin slice of opal, they will sandwich it between a backing material and then a clear material on front. That way you can see it and it's still protected. They might use rock crystal quartz or, who knows, glass, something else. But because there's 3 layers, we call it a triplet. Again, I view these more as a product rather than a collectible, but it's still an opportunity for someone to have part of the magic of nature without having to pay collectible prices. So again, buy what you want. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be taking both of these opals and turning them into a single pendant. I like jewelry that's also a conversation starter. So if you're interested in seeing how that pendant progresses, you need to get on my mailing list, because that's where I'll be releasing this story as it unfolds. Head over to gemshepherd.com where you can get on my mailing list, or contact me directly if you have a different jewelry product in mind. Otherwise, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below, tell all of your friends about me. Until next time, bye-bye.